Hello there, you're watching Nightline. I'm Anita. News making the headlines. UMNO not ruling out possibility of working with Pakatan Harapan to form a new political alignment in Perak. And Indonesia's Social Affairs Minister arrested for allegedly receiving $1.2 million kickbacks linked to COVID-19 aid. We begin the bulletin with this story. The newborn son of Johor Darul Takzim JDT footballer Muhammad Syafiq Ahmad was among 3 people killed in a pre-dawn accident at kilometre 163 North-South Expressway in Sungai Bakap on Sunday. The other victims were his 45-year-old mother-in-law Zainab Wahab and Indonesian maid Titik Sukamti in her 30s. According to a Pulau Pinang Fire and Rescue Department of Malaysia General Operations Centre spokesman, the 25-year-old footballer and his 2-year-old daughter, Ira Nur Safia, were slightly injured. However, his wife, Nur Amalina Nur Ain, aged 25, sustained serious injuries in the 5:30 a.m. incident. Rescuers rushed to the scene on receiving a report at 5:36 a.m. Upon arrival, they found a badly wrecked Toyota Velfire multi-purpose vehicle, believed to have skidded after crashing into a road divider. There were 6 victims. 3 were trapped in the vehicle. According to the spokesperson, the victims pinned inside the car were confirmed dead at the scene. The bodies were taken to the Sungai Bakap Hospital for post-mortem. The injured were sent to the Putrajaya Hospital. It is learned that the vehicle was driven by Muhammad Syafiq. Meanwhile, the remains of Muhammad Syafiq's baby and mother-in-law were buried in Pendang, Kedah on Sunday night. Both victims were buried in a single grave at the Kampung Bukit Murai Muslim Cemetery in Padang Pusing after Isyak prayers. The post-mortem was conducted at the Sungai Bakap Hospital in Pulau Pinang at 2 p.m. After the process was over, the remains were released at 3:30 p.m. before taken to their hometown in Bukit Murai. Funeral prayers were then performed by family members and residents before being taken to the cemetery for burial. In the meantime, the remains of the Indonesian maid, Titik Sukamti, was managed by an agent of a foreign employment agency. Barisan Nasional, BN and UMNO have not ruled out the possibility of working with Pakatan Harapan, PH, including DAP, to form a new political alignment in Perak. BN Chairman and UMNO President, Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, said the new political alignment was an option for the party if the Pakatan Nasional PN government comprising Bersatu, PAS and BN cannot be maintained.
Kita akan melihat semua kemungkinan. Saya sebutkan seboleh mungkin. Kita kekalkan jajaran yang terdahulu, tetapi jika itu tidak dapat dilakukan, tentu ada penyesuaian yang harus dilakukan untuk melakukan penjajaran yang baru.
Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid told reporters after an audience with the Sultan of Perak, Sultan Nazrin Muizzuddin Shah, at Istana Kinta on Sunday morning. He admitted that it would be difficult to maintain the previous government based on the statements issued by PAS Secretary-General Datuk Taqiyuddin Hassan and Bersatu Secretary-General Datuk Seri Hamzah Zainuddin earlier. On Friday, Datuk Taqiyuddin stated that PAS would not participate in efforts to form the new Perak government after Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Ahmad Faizal Azumu failed to get majority support in a vote of confidence in the State Legislative Assembly on the same day. Whereas Datuk Seri Hamzah on the same day expressed Bersatu's regret over the situation. On the Menteri Besar candidate from UMNO, Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid said the party would choose someone who is believed to have the support of the majority of state assemblymen to get consent from Sultan Nazrin soon. Perak has 59 assemblymen comprising 25 from Barisan Nasional, Bersatu 5, PAS 3, DAP 16, PKR 3, Amanah 5, Gerakan 1 and 1 independent. With the resignation of Datuk Seri Ahmad Faisal Azumu as Perak Menteri Besar and the State Executive Councillors, the Perak Legislative Assembly sitting scheduled for Wednesday cannot go ahead. State Speaker Datuk Muhammad Zahid Abdul Khalid said it is the requirement that a Menteri Besar and at least 4 state councillors be appointed before the Assembly sitting can resume. Datuk Seri Ahmad Faisal resigned on Saturday as Menteri Besar along with the state executive councillors. The Sultan of Perak, Sultan Nazrin Muizuddin Shah, on Sunday consented to their resignations after being presented with their letters on Friday. The Speaker said a motion to adjourn the meeting will first be tabled on Wednesday, after which the next sitting will only resume once Sultan Nazrin consents to the appointment of a new Menteri Besar. He said that assuming a state government is not formed when the meeting continues as scheduled at 2:30 p.m. this Wednesday, he will request for one assemblyman to propose that the meeting is adjourned to a date to be announced later. According to its original schedule, the State Assembly meeting was supposed to be held for 5 days beginning last Friday, with the tabling of the 2021 Perak budget before continuing this coming Tuesday to Friday. However, due to the developments triggered in the Assembly last Friday, the Speaker adjourned the sitting to Wednesday. Datuk Muhammad Zahid said the new Menteri Besar will need to give 14 days notice to the Assembly before the next sitting can be resumed. He added that it would be up to the Menteri Besar to table a new budget or not. On Friday, Datuk Seri Ahmad Faisal failed to get majority support in a vote of confidence at the State Assembly. Klang Valley recorded the highest number of new COVID-19 infections on Sunday. The region had more than 38% of the 1,335 new cases. Selangor and Kuala Lumpur recorded 337 cases and 178 cases respectively. The figure brings the total positive cases to date to 72,694 since the beginning of the pandemic. 2 new deaths were reported, both in the peninsula. The 2 were Malaysian citizens, one in Perak while the other in Johor. This brings the cumulative death figure to 382. At the intensive care unit, there were 126 patients receiving treatment, with 57 of them requiring respiratory assistance. There were 3 new clusters detected, namely the Ceram cluster in Negeri Sembilan, Jalan Tampoi cluster in Johor and Pulau Berhala cluster in Sabah. The Health Ministry's National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency has so far not received any documents from Pfizer for evaluation, registration and testing of the COVID-19 vaccine. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said the ministry has no direct information on whether there have been some problems in the supply of the vaccine, as reported by a foreign media agency. He said the Health Ministry, however, will monitor developments on Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine and obtain more information on the matter. In a statement on Sunday, the Health DG said the ministry will notify the public on developments from time to time. He was commenting on a Reuters report on December 4th, which among others said that the pharmaceutical company might not be able to meet its production target for the vaccine for 2020 due to a lack of raw materials. He said it is the ministry's responsibility to ensure all products go through the evaluation and testing process based on the principles of quality, safety and effectiveness before being registered for the Malaysian market. Apart from that, he said the ministry's National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency also ensures that the quality, safety and effectiveness of vaccines and registered medicines are always guaranteed through the Quality Product Monitoring Programme and Pharmacovigilance. Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin on Sunday launched the Johor Sustainable Development Plan 2030 at the lobby of Bangunan Sultan Ismail, Kota Iskandar in Iskandar Puteri. The plan, which contains 8 core thrusts, is a reference document for the state leadership, government administrative machinery, industry, local leaders and related parties towards realising the development strategy drawn up for the next 10 years. Among the thrusts stressed in the plan are to empower the economy, investment and the digital economy, provision of transport network system and mega infrastructure, as well as to conserve the environment. Focus is also given to good governance, integrity and dynamism, social well-being, strengthening the Islamic education system, human capital development, heritage, empowering women and meeting the aspirations of idealistic young people. It also emphasises the people's interests and well-being and the state government's aspiration for a sustainable economy for Johor for the prosperity of its people. Also present at the ceremony at the State Assembly were Johor Menteri Besar Dato' Hasni Mohamad, State Assembly Speaker Suhaizan Kayat and State Assemblymen. Meanwhile, the Johor State Legislative Assembly has unanimously approved the 2021 budget. The Supply Enactment in brackets 2021 Bill 2020 and the Johor State Development Expenditure Estimates for 2021 were approved after being debated for 6 days from November 29th. The budget with the theme Resilient for Prosperity, which was tabled on November 26th, was the first to be tabled by Menteri Besar Datuk Hasni Mohamad. Datuk Hasni, when presenting the budget, said the projected state revenue was 1.61 billion ringgit, while the projected expenditure was 1.86 billion ringgit, making it the first deficit budget in the state after 10 consecutive years of surplus budgets. He stressed that although there is a deficit of 248.14 million ringgit for next year's budget, it is formulated based on counter-cyclical fiscal measures to help stimulate economic recovery.
Dalam konteks ini, Kerajaan Negeri Johor akan menangguhkan usaha-usaha konsolidasi fiskal pada masa akan datang sehingga ekonomi negeri kembali pulih sepenuhnya. Walau bagaimanapun, saya ingin tegaskan bahawa Kerajaan Negeri Johor mempunyai kekuatan reserve negeri yang cukup bagi menampung jumlah defisit ini.
The Johor Menteri Besar also said the 2021 state budget was designed specifically to help all the people of Johor, especially in dealing with the current situation amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Also present was Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, who is also Gambir Assemblyman. The passing of the state budget came after speculation that the budget might be rejected after the political crisis in Perak, which saw the removal of its Menteri Besar. The Johor Assembly has 56 seats, with UMNO and DAP having 14 seats, Bersatu 12, MIC 2, PAS 1, Amanah 9 and PKR with 4 seats. In a related development, Tan Sri Muhyiddin has agreed to issue a 30 million ringgit special grant to help alleviate the burden of vulnerable groups affected by COVID-19 in Johor.
Sukacita saya memaklumkan bahawa Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin telah bersetuju untuk memberi geran khas berjumlah 30 juta untuk meringankan bebanan kumpulan rentan yang terjejas dengan COVID-19 di negeri Johor. Terima kasih Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri.
The Johor Menteri Besar also announced that all 56 state assemblymen will each receive an additional allocation of 50,000 ringgit on a one-off basis. Economists have given mixed views on Fitch Ratings' latest revision of Malaysia's sovereign rating, with some saying it is along expected lines, while others expressing their disappointment. As the global economy and markets enter a vortex of weak data, poor earnings and rising bankruptcies, the assessment puts further stress on an economy that is already strained due to the pandemic. GUI IQI Chief Economist Shan Said lambasted the rating agency for its assessment of Malaysia's sovereign rating, saying that markets have lost confidence in rating agencies since 2010. He said markets are looking for macroeconomic stability, policy levers such as fiscal and monetary to manoeuvre and to spur growth, and above all, aggregate demand, which drives the gross domestic product (GDP) calculus for all economies. Fitch announced last Friday its downgrade of Malaysia's sovereign rating from A- to BBB+, with an improved outlook from negative to stable. Meanwhile, Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad Chief Economist Muhammad Afzanizam Abdul Rashid said the announcement was not entirely surprising given the sheer size of the stimulus package. Rating agencies are in the business of giving credit opinions, which tend to change when there is new information and development, he said, adding that focus should now be on ensuring the economic recovery process continues.
What matters now is for the government to continue with their plan to pump prime the economy as what have been prescribed in the Belanjawan 2021, and thereafter there must be a clear plans to reduce the budget gap. And this will require a robust communication by the government in respect to policies that might not be, entirely popular, because it would involve some new taxes, and some revision in respect to some of the key components of the expenditure.
Muhammad Afzanizam pointed out that if Malaysia does it right, the sovereign rating could be upgraded at some point in the future. He also noted that the ringgit and Malaysia government securities yields will probably react on Monday following the revision.
Given the depth of our capital markets. We have major players like the pension funds, the banking industries, the insurance companies, and also the central bank would also can provide some form of a buffer if, let's say, in the event of a major sell-off tomorrow. And I think the central bank also has quite a fairly comfortable level of FX reserve that could actually help to smoothen any possible volatilities in the FX market.
We're now going for a short break, but when we return, chaos as wild boar wanders into Alamanda Mall. Do stay with us. Welcome back. In Pulau Pinang, a security guard has been remanded to facilitate investigation into the murder of a chef who was allegedly stabbed 10 times at an apartment in Paya Terubong on Saturday. Georgetown OCPD Assistant Commissioner Sofian Santong said the 65-year-old suspect will be remanded for 7 days beginning Sunday. In the 8 p.m. incident, the 42-year-old victim was killed after the suspect stabbed him 10 times with a knife at the guard post of the apartment where the suspect worked as security personnel. The suspect claimed he allegedly stabbed the victim after he could not withstand the constant harassment he received from the victim. The victim was pronounced dead upon arrival at hospital. The suspect was then arrested by police at about 10:30 p.m. at the apartment, and the knife believed to be used during the incident was recovered. The case is being investigated under Section 302 of the Penal Code for murder. A Nigerian man who allegedly threw his 4-year-old grandson from the 3rd floor of an apartment in Danau Kota Setapa on November 29th was remanded for another 7 days. Kuala Lumpur CID Chief, Senior Assistant Commissioner Nik Ros Azhan Nik Abdul Hamid, said the 42-year-old suspect is remanded until December 13th to assist in the investigation. The suspect is currently being treated at the Kuala Lumpur hospital due to hip fractures and injuries to his legs and arms. Investigations are being conducted under Section 302 of the Penal Code for murder. In the incident, the 4-year-old died after being thrown by his step-grandfather from the 3rd floor of the apartment. Police investigations found the man trying to rape his 24-year-old stepdaughter, who was also the mother of the dead child. The Alamanda shopping complex in Putrajaya was an uproar after a wild boar suddenly wandered into the building on Sunday afternoon. Putrajaya Fire and Rescue Station Chief Shari Abdullah said they received a call about the incident at 12:38 p.m. and deployed 8 personnel with 2 fire engines at about 12:47 p.m. to chase the animal out of the shopping complex. The animal then headed towards the Precinct 16 rugby field, and the case was handed over to the Putrajaya Corporation Wildlife Division for further action. Shari said a wild boar shooting operation was held every Sunday in the Federal Government Administrative Centre. Several video clips and photos went viral on Twitter, showing the boar roaming inside a sports shop in Alamanda. Coming up right after this break, Pfizer seeks emergency use authorization for its COVID-19 vaccine in India. More on this right after this. Stay with us. We're back with news on the foreign front. Indonesia's Social Affairs Minister was arrested Sunday for allegedly taking $1.2 million in bribes linked to food aid for those hit by the coronavirus pandemic. Juliari Batubara was named as a suspect after Indonesian anti-corruption agents seized suitcases, backpacks and envelopes stuffed with cash equivalent to $1.2 million in a sting operation on Saturday. He turned himself in on Sunday at the anti-corruption agency's headquarters, becoming the second minister in President Joko Widodo's government to be arrested over alleged graft in recent weeks. Indonesia's economy, Southeast Asia's biggest, has been hit hard by the pandemic, and the government has rolled out aid programs such as food packages to help those in need. Batubara has been accused of involvement in a bribery scheme linked to one such aid project. He could face the death penalty if found guilty of stealing aid funds during a national disaster. Over in India, Pfizer India has become the first pharmaceutical firm to seek from the Drugs Controller General of India, DCGI, emergency use authorization for its COVID-19 vaccine in the country. This after its parent company secured such clearance in the UK and Bahrain. In its application to the drug regulator, Pfizer has sought permission to import the vaccine for sale and distribution in the country, besides waiver of clinical trials on Indian population, in accordance with the special provisions under the New Drugs and Clinical Trials Rules 2019. For the vaccine to be considered for use in the country, however, the Indian subsidiary of Pfizer will have to approach the regulator and share the data it has submitted to the UK regulator. The UK on Wednesday became the first country to approve the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine against COVID-19, with the UK regulator, Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, granting temporary authorization for its emergency use. The British regulator said the jab, which claims to offer up to 95% protection against COVID-19, is safe for rollout. Australia's state of Victoria eased COVID-19 restrictions on Sunday after the country's pandemic hotspot recorded 37 days without any new coronavirus infections, moving towards a COVID-safe holiday season. From midnight on Sunday, up to 100 people will be able to attend public gatherings, such as weddings, with density rules of 1 person per 2 square metres remaining in place, while 50% of office workers will be able to return to workplaces by January 11th, up from 25% now. Masks, however, will remain mandatory in indoor venues and on public and ride-sharing transport. South Korea raised its coronavirus alert to the second highest level in Seoul and surrounding areas on Sunday as authorities struggle to contain a fresh outbreak. The country largely brought the virus under control with a trace, test and treat approach. But in recent weeks, new infections have jumped from around 100 a day to more than 500. South Korea confirmed 631 new cases on Sunday, the highest in 9 months, with the majority in the Greater Seoul region. At his first campaign rally after losing the election, U.S. President Donald Trump sent mixed messages to Republican voters in Georgia on Saturday night, repeating false claims that the election was rigged while encouraging them to vote in a January 5th runoff that will decide control of the U.S. Senate. Trump, who lost Georgia's 16 electoral votes by about 12,000 votes after an audit and a recount, told the crowd in Valdosta, near the Florida border, that supporting Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler in the runoff would help shape the future of America.
The voters of Georgia will determine which party runs every committee, writes every piece of legislation, controls every single taxpayer dollar. Very simply, you will decide whether your children will grow up in a socialist country or whether they will grow up in a free country. You must go vote and vote early, starting December 14th. You have to do it. They cheated and they rigged our presidential election, but we will still win it. We will still win it. We'll still win it. And they're going to try and rig this election, too.
A victory for either Loeffler or Perdue will give Republicans a Senate majority and the hope of restraining the ambitions of President-elect Joe Biden, a Democrat. Biden's party already controls the House of Representatives, and if Democratic candidates John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win the Senate runoff in Georgia, the party will control the White House and both houses of Congress, giving it the power to enact the president-elect's agenda with minimal disruption from the Republicans. We now take a look at the highlights in Malaysia's main newspapers for Monday, December 7th. The New Straits Times underlines the need for Malaysians to be cautious, despite the nod given to interstate and inter-district travel from Monday. Malaysia's best-selling Malay newspaper, Harian Metro, meanwhile, highlights the tragic death of JDT's Muhammad Syafiq Ahmad's family members, including his newborn son, following a car crash. Headlining Berita Harian, meanwhile, is a report on the political crisis in Perak, which might result in a new political alignment. Finally, taking the front page of the Malaysian Reserve is an article on the need for an adjustment to higher education institutions' business model to fit the new normal induced by the COVID-19 pandemic. Don't forget to get your copies or subscribe to the online newspaper. Looks like that item wraps up Nightline this time around, but before we leave, we'll take a look at the visuals of Halvor Egner Granerud of Norway, winning his second ski jumping World Cup event in a week at Nizhny Tagil in Russia. With that, I'm Anita. Thank you for watching and good night.